Hey, and good afternoon. Welcome to the Unmitigated Truth. I'm your host, Greg Merriweather. Man, as promised, we are going to have an amazing show. I'm excited about today's guest because there's been so much talked about as it relates to data centers. We've heard a lot of stuff. We've heard a lot of stuff that may be deemed negative. We've heard some people who may speak positive. But today we are going to have a guest who's going to really talk about it. I know he's been around the city. He's talked to some people. He's shown up for a lot of meetings. I've seen him go through some tough conversations. But when we get back, after we get started, we are going to talk to someone about data centers. So sit back, relax. Let's get ready for the Unmitigated Truth. Let's go. And good afternoon and welcome to the Unmitigated Truth. I'm Greg Merriweather. Today we're discussing one of the largest proposed development projects in Indianapolis history, a $2 billion data center campus proposed by DC Blox on the city's east side. Supporters call it economic development. Opponents call it corporate expansion at the expense of neighborhoods. The company says it's not an AI data center. Residents want to know exactly what that means. Today, we're going to the source, directly to the source. Joining us today is David Armistead, Senior Vice President of Sales for DC Blox. Let's bring him on right now. Welcome to the show, my brother David. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you, Gregory. Appreciate you having me on your show.
Man, glad to have you here, man. I know you've been in the city a few times, had some conversations. So I figured, you know what? It's time for us to sit down and have a conversation, because I know sometimes you can be in some rooms that could be loud. Sometimes, emotions are flaring. But I really wanted to sit down with you because I felt the need to just really have a good one-on-one, allow us to just listen, share some conversation, ask some questions. And then, you know what, after that, we move forward, we figure out what it is that's going to go on with this data center. If that works for you, it works for me. We good?
We good.
All right, let's get
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm actually in Indianapolis right now. I'm about a block away from Monument Circle. But
I
we've
got you.
had a lot of conversations in the city, and so I really appreciate you allowing us to have a conversation here today.
Absolutely. So just to start off, who is DC Blox?
DC Blox is a company that's headquartered out of Atlanta, Georgia. It has about 150 employees, and it's mostly in the southeastern United States. So we currently have operations and projects from Georgia to the Carolinas, Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama, up into Virginia. And we are now wanting to expand into the Midwest, and we are very interested in Indianapolis specifically. We've been around for a number of years. We've been very successful. We got started in 2014. So we've got proven success in coming into communities, working with those communities and building these facilities and operating these facilities. And that is one thing that differentiates DC Blox from other data center companies, is we don't just come in and build a facility and flip it and leave. We own these facilities and we operate them. So it's really the local residents who become DC Blox employees. And, I would say we're in it for the long haul.
Okay. So what's your current role in the company?
So my role, I've been at DC Blox for over 6 years, and I lead the sales efforts for DC Blox. I actually live in Birmingham, Alabama. But I'm also very engaged with communities going forward and all the customers that we have in our portfolio.
Okay, thank you. Why is Indianapolis attractive to DC Blox?
We are, just to cut to it, we are here because one of our customers wants us to be here.
Okay.
And this is a customer we've had. They've been really good to us, and they have asked us to come into Indianapolis. I know we're going to talk about AI and what we're doing, what we're not doing.
Sure.
In this specific instance, to get us started with the phase 1, building 1, it is to deploy optical network gear, which is really, think of it as the computers that make the internet run. Mm-hmm. And so every major market needs this kind of digital infrastructure. That's the primary reason for DC Blox coming into Indianapolis.
Okay. Why specifically target the east side of Indianapolis?
Good question. I would say that when our site selections team started looking at Indianapolis, we weren't targeting the east side per se. Mm-hmm. But what we found was a site at the former Ford manufacturing site, the Ford Visteon site. And there were a couple of attributes that were really appealing to us. One is it's zoned industrial. It's zoned I-3 industrial. It is a brownfield, which needs to be redeveloped, and that has some unique characteristics of what can and cannot happen at that site. And then, and we have experience in developing and mitigating brownfield sites, mm-hmm. Even where I live. And then thirdly, there is an underutilized AES substation that's at the property. And that substation, with a minor upgrade for the transformer, can provide all the power that we need for that phase 1 building to get us going really, really pretty quickly. So it's those were some attributes that we look for. So we're not going in and redeveloping farmland in Indiana. We're not going into the center of a neighborhood. We know that there is residential not far from our site, but this is an industrial site. It's historically industrial, and we want to redevelop this site responsibly to put a data center there.
Okay. So how did this project come to be? How did it originate? Where did it start to be like, hey, you know what? We got this, we got that. The team goes out. How did it originate to say this? Where I know you have a client, but what made that? If you're able to say, what made that client be like Indianapolis, East Side, or this location?
Well, we don't talk about our clients' names just out of security
Understood.
Reasons. They don't necessarily want everybody to know where their stuff is at.
Understood.
But they did ask us to come into Indianapolis to set up a data center to support their network operations for their internet through the Midwest. And we've done this in other areas for them in the Southeast in multiple spots. And so that was the primary driver that was bringing us here. It was customer led.
Sure.
But then we also look at, well, what can we do at the site? Because what we've presented very publicly, and we've got a website I'll give a shout out to. It's dcbloxindy.com. And that has a lot of documents and information and project plans for this site that everyone's welcome to go and check out.
And what was that website again?
It's dcbloxindy.com. Okay. So dcbloxindy.com.
Gotcha.
And that gives you a lot of information, but if you look into that, you'll see there's a presentation on the front page. You can click into it. We just presented this last week at Warren Township Community Forum. And there are 2 phases to the project. There's a phase 1 and there's a phase 2. Okay. The phase 1 is for this first building that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's for optical network gear. And that is a 10 megawatt building. So we talk about the sizing of the buildings based on how much power that we put into the building. So that's a 10 megawatt building.
Mhm.
And the phase 2, we've organized that across 2 buildings, which is an additional 20 megawatt and an additional 48 megawatt.
Mm.
Now, the phase 2 is really, I'll call it estimated. We don't have a customer commitment for that. And so that is that is an estimate, but that is the maximum of
Okay.
what we could do. So we could do 1 or 2 buildings. Right now we've got it shown as 2, and we could do up to another 68 megawatts, but it could be less. It's just not going to be more than that. And we're working through AES on the power studies to verify that in fact they could deliver that kind of power to the site.
Okay. So with everything being done, I mean, just hopefully you can tell us what's the total investment amount of this project?
If we are able to do the phase 1 and the phase 2, all total, including the investment that our customer will put into the site when they buy the computers and put them inside the building, it's about $2.2 billion.
Wow. Big investment.
It's significant.
Sure.
It's significant.
Very significant. So what would residents, so let's kind of get into it a little bit. So what would residents see if they drove by the completed campus?
The outside of the building, if you see the building, if you drive onto the campus and you rolled up to our building, it looks like a Class A office building from the outside. It just looks like a really, we do it very nice. All of our buildings have a very similar architectural look. It's most, we do different color palettes. We use purple, we use gray, and so forth. And otherwise, these are large buildings. If you go onto that site today, you'll see the Monarch Beverage building. There's also another building that's for manufacturing dental implants and things. And these are just very large, kind of warehouse looking buildings. But then we've got a security fence around the property, and we've got really nice landscaping. And that's something that we've done across all of the sites that we have in our portfolio.
I think I might have something. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah. Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. Is that it? That we're talking
That's
right
it. That's it.
Okay.
So the first building that you see in the foreground, kind of to the right, is a 1-story building, and that would be a 10 megawatt building.
Okay.
And then over to the left-hand side, you've got 2-story buildings. The smaller one is a 20 megawatt, and the larger one is a 48 megawatt building. So
when you're saying these numbers, and it's like, okay, the megawatts, and I'm sure it's like off to most people, because I'm like, all right, what does that mean? So tell me, when you say that, what is it? What are we talking about? And is it what are we talking about? And then how does that work? Tell me that.
When you say how does that work, like what does that mean?
What are they for?
Yeah. So a megawatt is a whole lot of electricity. It's a whole lot of electricity. In where I live, for example, the average home uses like 1.6 kilowatts. All right. You need 1,000 kilowatts to get to megawatts. So a megawatt is like over 600 houses of electricity. And you think about what your house uses. I mean, you got to run your air conditioner, you got to run your dryer. Okay. So it is a lot of electricity, but again, this is really in a manufacturing type industrial setting. So that is a large consumer of, we're a large consumer of electricity. And the reason we have that is to power all the computers that are inside the building. If you walk into data centers, are actually not super complicated.
Okay.
The computers are complicated, but the data center is more just the physical building.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you walk into a data center, yeah, you got to get, you got a security fence, you got to badge in, talk to the security guard, and then park your car, and you go in and you go into the building, and after the lobby, you go back, and with the access controls, you could get into the data hall. Data hall is just a big room where we have a lot of rows of computers.
Okay.
And then we have air conditioners that are usually on the sides of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about when you charge your laptop or you charge your iPhone or whatever, sometimes your phone gets really hot because
Right.
you had it plugged up or whatnot.
Yep.
Computers do the same thing. When computers are running, they will get hot and they put off heat, and so you have to have a cooling system to get that heat away from the computers, so they'll keep chugging along. And so really the data center itself provides the physical building powered with electricity, a lot of electricity, and it provides the cooling and security. And that's really the basic concepts.
So when people are, of course we got to go there. Well, so when people hear these numbers and they're thinking, man, a megawatt, 600 houses. Okay, you got to cool these things. Okay, what is it going to cost us? What is your rebuttal when you hear that from the community? What's your thought?
That's a great question, and it's a complicated
Mm-hmm.
it's a complicated situation.
Sure.
And we have on that website, we also have a document, and I know we're going to talk about community benefit agreements and stuff later.
Sure. Yeah.
We have a document on there that is a DC Blox commitments, and these are legally binding commitments that DC Blox is signing up for.
Okay.
And one of those commitments is that DC Blox will pay for whatever is needed for infrastructure upgrades from the utility company AES, transmission, distribution, generation. And we do that, and we pay for it up front so that it does not go over to the ratepayer, so that the people's bills aren't going up because of that. But I'll give you a tangible example. So the substation that's there at our property is a very old substation. When you look, and I don't know how old it was, it looks like it was built in the 50s.
Okay.
So it's getting up there. I don't know if it would be 20 years from now or whatever, but at some point that thing's going to have to be replaced. If DC Blox were not coming in to do the upgrades and build a very robust substation, and as well as the transmission lines, because there will be new transmission lines required. We'll pay for all of that out of pocket. Let's just talk about the substation. That substation might cost $50 million. Okay, if DC Blox writes a check, which we are required to do, to pay for that new substation, and we spend, so just call it $50 million, that provides more robust infrastructure that helps keep the power on for the broader community. And so that's a benefit, but also the fact that DC Blox is paying for this right now means that, whatever, 15, 20 years from now, when that thing needed to be replaced, if AES were just to come do that on its own, then that $50 million would be spread across all the people in this market, and they would have to pay for it. So that's maybe a good example of how to think about that. But when I talk with folks, I think they're like, well, my power bill has been going up anyway. It has been going up. And I was actually talking with somebody about that this morning at the state level. And they said, that's true. For the past 20 years, Indiana has been closing fossil fuel plants and replacing with renewables. And that's actually more expensive. It's less polluting, but it's more expensive. And because 20 years ago, 90% of the power plants in Indiana were coal. And that's a lot. So since 2007, this is a big number, but since 2007, power bills have gone up 93%.
Wow.
And now the good news is that's still below the national average, but that's still a huge increase.
Yeah, it's a
and
huge.
and complicate that, since 2023, inflation has just been going up.
Agreed.
So people have been hit with these increased power bills, and
their pockets haven't been growing along with the power bills.
Right,
so, yeah.
right. So while I can talk with you about us paying for a substation so that cost doesn't go to ratepayers, your ratepayers are sitting at home looking at their power bill and said, my power bill's been going up all the time since 2007, and they're not wrong. And so we're trying to work through that. But the other thing I learned is that as far as Indiana's energy strategy is concerned, the idea is that there's aging infrastructure in the grid that needs to be updated or replaced. And their desire is to partner with data centers to effectively get data centers to pay the majority of that cost, and to overbuild so that there's capacity that the ratepayers can enjoy, but it will basically cover the cost of that infrastructure build out so that the ratepayers don't have to burden it. Be burdened with it.
So we talked and we talked about AI data centers and then other data centers. Is this an AI data center?
So the data center that we want to build is not an AI data center. It is for network optical equipment, and but let's talk about that a little bit. Sure. Because I think AI. If you did a poll and you ask people what do you think about AI, I think the majority of people would have a negative idea about AI. Sure. And it's scary. They don't know what it is. Is it gonna
taking our jobs?
Taking our jobs. Yeah. I hear stuff like that, and you think about what AI is. So this is a computer that's going to take some data, and it's going to analyze it for patterns, and then it's going to provide some output. And that's the simplest terms. And so how do computers learn how to do that stuff? It's kind of like if you were to take a kid and show them thousands of pictures of cats, it's going to learn what a cat is, right? A computer can do that too. So you show it thousands of pictures of cats, and it can tell you what a cat is. And people, I don't think people really think about some of the everyday examples of how AI is used right now. AI is used to take your emails and look for patterns and determine which ones are spam, right? In social media, it might give you some suggestions of some music that you're really going to like. Sure. That's taking data and serving you up that kind of content. If you talk to Siri or Alexa, you ask it a question, that's AI. That is, they understand the words, that's a data, that's input, they look at the patterns, they give you the output. But there's some also really awesome examples of AI. Like AI can take the hospital images of people, of their hearts and their lungs and things, and it can, again, look for data, look for patterns, identify cancers, and help doctors, with diagnoses. So that's, those are some kind of everyday AI type applications that we all enjoy and are good for us. Now, what does that mean in the context of a data center? So what's an AI data center? Well, I was describing earlier kind of the basic concepts of a data center. You go in, it's a big room, it's a big concrete bunker. These things have 10-inch thick walls. They're built for tornadoes and stuff. Concrete roofing system, the concrete bunker, really. And inside you've got rows of computers, and those rows are individual racks of computers. So you think about a rack, it might be 6 feet tall, and you may have heard people refer to these servers as pizza boxes because they're kind of shaped like a pizza box. And if you think about just sliding in pizza boxes into the rack, that's what that looks like. And in a normal data center, a non-AI data center, those might just be kind of some regular computers. They don't take as much power. They don't require as much cooling. It's just kind of a regular data center.
Okay.
In an AI data center, it's just that you need more computers that are more powerful. And so in that rack, you'll have it totally full, top to bottom. And they're really powerful. They're going to connect them all. And it just requires more power and more specialized cooling. But the fundamental concepts of what an AI data center are, it just has more power and more cooling.
Sure.
It's really fundamentally not different than any other data center. So when you look at our project plan and you go on our website, you look in our materials, you'll see the phase 1 and the phase 2. I've talked to you about the phase 1, and that's the optical gear. If you were to ask me, what do I think is going to happen with phase 2, because we don't have a customer for the phase 2, so we don't have that specific design finalized. I would say it's probably going to be more of the same. Given how we've progressed in other markets, I think that's likely the outcome. Now, I can't say that with 100% certainty. So could we put some AI in there? Potentially.
That was one of my questions.
That to be determined. I don't want to make any commitments on that because we just don't know yet.
Okay. I think a lot of people really think about the great things of AI. I think that the thing that I'm hearing most is people arguing about it being in their community and the impact on resources and things of that nature. How do you all go about, because some people are, I've heard, well, they should be able to figure out a way to provide their own resources, their own cooling systems, their own electricity. Why can't they build something that allows them to utilize the resources that they need for themselves, since they have the money to do so? When you hear those questions come from the community, what's your reaction to that?
That's a good question. I'll take two components to that, because they're kind of the biggest resources that are in this conversation. One of them is on the water side, and then the other one is on the electricity side. And I think this is where there have been some data center companies in the US that have done some things that are really bad for communities. And this is where you're seeing it show up on social media, and people have really messed up. I will say that for the industry, I think there have been a lot of lessons learned, but I can also talk to you about how DC Blox is different. So, for example, on the water side of things, there have been some widely publicized data centers who went into communities and they drilled wells and they tapped into aquifers, and they were using millions of gallons of water a day. And it impacted local residents, it impacted farmers and so forth. It reduced water pressure. They had, it looked like cloudy water. It was just not good. DC Blox has never done that type of system for cooling. The type of system that uses that technology with the wells and stuff is called evaporative cooling. And you've probably seen this when you've driven by some big hospitals or things where you see the big clouds of it looks like smoke coming off, but it's steam, and that's evaporative cooling, where they use so much water. DC Blox does use a closed loop system. It's about a 70-30 mix of water and glycol. Glycol is just basically antifreeze, just like you have in your car. And then that recirculates through the system. We don't top it off. There's a lot of misinformation about this online right now, but if you're interested, please reach out to me and I'll send you some information on this.
Sure.
But it's a very efficient system. At the full plan with phase 1 and phase 2 for DC Blox in Indianapolis, we would use 2,200 gallons of water a day. And that would not be for the cooling, that would really be for irrigation and bathrooms, because we'd have 35 employees. at the campus. And for that water consumption, to put that in comparison, that's about equivalent to 11 households.
Okay.
So from a facility standpoint, we are not a high water user, and that's just based on our design.
Okay.
And then from a power standpoint, in terms of power plants, I mean, there have been some people who have said, you should generate your own power. Well, that would imply something like a SMR, which is a small modular reactor, which is clean energy, and I'm a big proponent of that. Okay. We are not there yet in a safe way. Somebody was asking us if we would have nuclear power there at the site in Indianapolis, and
are there people that have nuclear power?
That is an emerging technology in the data center space.
Oh, wow.
In the US.
Wow.
And I mean, the good thing about nuclear is that it is clean energy. You're not burning fossil fuels. But that is not something that we are doing in Indianapolis or anywhere else. And in fact, we were asked to put that in our commitment letter, which will be legally binding, not just with DC Blox, but those commitments will stay with the property. So 30 years from now, if DC Blox ever sells to a different data center company and it changes hands, those commitments stay with the property. They're still legally binding to the property.
Okay. So with this facility, how does it compare as it relates to just the resources it uses? How does it compare to other large facilities? Are you saying it's better, worse, equal?
From compared to resource uses from other manufacturing plants, we are probably using more electricity per square footage. But we may be using much less water for the site. So it's not an either or. It's kind of a little bbit of a apples and oranges situation.
Okay. How many generators will you have?
So great question. This is something we weren't clear on in the beginning, and we've been trying to clarify. That first building, that 10 megawatt building, will have 6 generators. Okay. And I'll talk about those for just a moment, and then I'll talk to you about the phase 2, which is where the confusion was. For those 6 generators, just for compliance purposes and for maintenance, we test those 30 minutes once a month.
30 minutes once a month, they test the generators. That was one of my questions. But go ahead.
And we do it during business hours. We are over 500 feet from the property boundary, and as far as noise is concerned, if you stand right next to the generator or 25 feet from the generator, it's about 85 decibels. Once you move out to 500 feet, it's less than 65 decibels. And so that is our commitment. And again, this is in the commitments document to ensure that the noise is managed and abated so that it doesn't disturb the neighbors.
So you said 85 decibels
is if you're standing next to it.
If you're standing next to it. So let me just say this. So 85 decibels, I just looked it up. And 85 decibel sound is the equivalent to the noise produced by heavy city traffic, a food blender, or a noisy restaurant. Okay. 80 to 85 heavy traffic, food blenders, garbage disposals, and hair dryers.
Yeah, that's if you're inside.
That's only if you're right next to it, though.
Yeah, that's if you're standing next to the generator.
Okay. And if you're not, what'd you say it dropped to?
Below 65.
Wow.
So 65 would be the max. I don't know if you've got some examples of what that would sound like.
Well, I could find it, I'm sure. Let's see, 65. Let's see. 65 business, office, or lively cafe conversation is 65 decibels.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
You and I are probably talking at 65 right here.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's saying. We're talking about 65 decibels. That's
So
interesting.
that's the max.
So why do people think it's far beyond that? Are there places that have?
Oh, there are terrible examples.
Okay.
There was a situation outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
It's well publicized. It's all over the internet. You can look it up. XAI, Twitter, right? They did a project where they brought in natural gas turbine generators,
Mm-hmm.
and these things sound like jet engines, and they run 24/7.
Oh wow!
And there are neighbors that live nearby, and they are losing their minds.
God, that's terrible.
And it is terrible. It is terrible.
That's
and
terrible.
that, it's kind of like one bad apple spoils the bunch. I mean, once that's out there, everybody thinks, well, that's what data centers are like, and it's just not. That's not. We don't do that. I mean, we test these generators. So for 6 generators, that's 3 hours a month. There are 730 hours in a month. So we're running those things less than 1% of the time.
So what kind of environmental studies have been completed by you all as it relates to the impact of you all being there?
So there is, we're in the process of doing some of those further studies right now. There is an environmental report that's available on our website that talks about us and what we're able to do at the site to redevelop that brownfield, and that addresses some of the environmental concerns about, because if you go out there right now, it's dusty. That's the site needs to be developed responsibly with a big concrete building put on top of it, some parking, some sidewalks, and you'll see in that environmental report, part of the requirement is anywhere that does not have concrete on top of it is required to have 2 feet of clean soil brought in and put on top to improve the site so that you don't have that dust from the brownfield that's can get churned up and whatnot for the neighbors.
Wow. So does this impact groundwater? And how does it impact groundwater?
We hear that, and I think the reason we hear that is because some other data centers use wells and discharge, and so forth. Ours is that closed loop system is not going to. We're not going to have any wells on the site. The cooling system that we have that we fill up like with a really big swimming pool initially, and that just recirculates and is reused. There's no evaporation, so you don't have to top that off. If there ever is a leak, we'd detect it because we've got leak detection all around. But it's all above ground. There's no below ground anything. And it's all on top of concrete pad or interior to the building. So we're not discharging on site or into the sanitary sewer system.
So what safeguards will you all have in place with this project?
Safeguards in terms of
environmentally, all those types of things. Are there any safeguards or anything that you all believe are necessary to ensure the residents that we are who we are, who we say we are, and we're going to do what we say we
are? This has been good. I think this has evolved since we've been working with the community and hearing their concerns. Obviously, we have all of the environmental regulations at the state level and with the EPA that we are bound to. We also have the commitments that we have put on our website that will be legally bounding. They'll be recorded with the recorder's office. But some of the feedback was from the community is we want to have access to you when you're operating here. We want to know who we can contact, and we want access to your reporting. So one of the things that we've decided to do, which we will begin doing with Indianapolis, is we're going to keep this website live once we start operations. And that's where we will have ongoing information about our environmental reporting, the ability for community members to reach out to us if they ever have concerns or issues, so that we can just continue that conversation, continue to communicate, and continue to be transparent with what's going on at the site.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on. Let's talk about some stuff that I know everybody wants to know. I know you've already said 35. That will put 35 jobs in the facility. Is that correct?
Yes. So, and that's with phase one, phase two.
Okay.
Data centers are not big employers for, on the surface of it. But I think these are good jobs. I think the average wage is about $55 an hour. Mm-hmm. These jobs do not require college degrees. Usually someone will come in with a technical certification, some experience with electrical, mechanical. Obviously, we're dealing with HVAC systems. Mm-hmm. We do have a lot of ancillary services with security guards, cleaning services, as well as just general maintenance. But we with this project, it is an ongoing project. I mean, even phase one will take a couple of years to complete. Phase two can take another 3, 4, even 5 years. These are long-term projects, and we've made a commitment to use union labor for, kind of at the peak of construction. This will be about 600 people on site every day. And some people said, well, these are just temporary jobs, but these are jobs that go on for years. And it's not just the workers there, but then those workers, they use local services. They're eating at local places around work and so forth. But there's also opportunity for workforce development. There's a huge opportunity for apprenticeships where they can come in without that experience, but kind of graduate out with certificates so they can take that to the next project, to the next job. So there's a lot going through the construction phases, and then we have our direct employees. How many construction
jobs come with that? How many construction jobs are you going to create by building this facility?
We're estimating it'll be about 600. About 600 people who are working on the construction of these data center buildings.
And this goes from is this phase one or throughout?
That will be throughout across phase one and phase two for the 3 buildings that we're planning.
Okay. So when these things, just some historical data. So in places where you all have implemented data centers, what has it done as far as opportunity? What do you all believe are the opportunities that having these places create for residents?
Where we have gone in, and there are residents in the general area, like there is here in Indianapolis, it has been where it's a brownfield, and you've got a contaminated site that's going to be redeveloped. Usually these sites have been sitting dormant for sometimes decades, not contributing to tax revenues. And oftentimes it's blight, or it's just, a dirty parcel. And we will come in and develop a Class A building with professional landscaping and lighting and so forth. So it will look like a very nice Class A facility. From there, I would say that DC Blox is very engaged with the communities where we operate.
Sure.
And I think that would continue certainly in Indianapolis.
Okay. Some of the listeners are like, will there be opportunities for, African American business, so on and so forth? I mean, I would hope to see that there would be some opportunities, whether it be with what would be considered minority construction companies or things of that nature. I just, would hope that there would be some level of that as well, because I think that coming into the communities, we definitely need to see some type of something put in play so that there can be some type of equity that allows some people to benefit that otherwise would not benefit from a project like this. So that would just be one of my things I would love to see. If we're moving forward, I would love to see there be some minority bids that are allowed to be part of this thing, so that so that some people could benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we have done that in the past. We did that in Alabama, where I live, for minority-owned and women-owned businesses, to be sure that they're having that opportunity with us coming in, and having those people who live there be able to benefit from the opportunities that are coming in into their neighborhood.
Sure. So let's talk taxes. What tax incentives have been requested, and then what are the tax incentives, and in hearing that, what would be the benefits of those incentives?
That's a great question. So that is as far as what has been requested is we're in the process of working with IEDI to get a tax abatement offer. We have not formally requested any specifics from them. Mm-hmm. We have simply said from the beginning, and we've said this publicly, we would like to be treated fairly like anyone else. So if you're offering incentives to other data center companies in the area, we would like to receive the same treatment, fair treatment. Mm-hmm. We have not yet received our offer letter from IEDI. And what I understand is going on with IEDI is they are developing a scorecard based on the prior experience with some other facilities coming into Indianapolis, so that they can have a methodology for making their offer of incentives. Okay. And I think we'll score very well on that. We've seen a preview, but we have yet to receive our offer letter for those incentives. Okay. So we'll be able to communicate that, and we would like to be able to communicate that as soon as possible. What I will say is, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think one of the things, is the reinvestment, is the development. It's like, a lot of people are looking and saying, okay, if this thing is coming into our community, and what is it going to do to our community? People are concerned with the resources, but then they say, okay, well, is there an advantage? Is there something we're going to gain by having this data center in our community? And mm-hmm. if there is something, I mean, yeah, I'm sure the listeners would want to know.
Yeah, I think let's say we get an incentives offer from IEDI, and there's IEDI? They're the I may get this acronym wrong, forgive me, but it's the Economic Development Group, the Indianapolis Economic Development Group. Yep. And so I think you have to have $2 million to qualify of investment. And then, so they may come back and basically say, we're going to discount some of the taxes that you would have to pay on real or personal property tax. Mm-hmm. And, but what I can tell you is, let's just, for illustration purposes, say that we got a 50% tax abatement or tax discount for the first 10 years of operations. Mm-hmm. Even after that, because think about how expensive these computers are that get put inside the data center. Over a 10-year period, the average tax revenue contribution from DC Blox would be almost $32 million. So that averages out at over 3.2 million a year. Versus, we did an example in the last community forum when we compared it against a warehouse. The warehouse, instead of $32 million, would be less than $4 million. So it's an 8 times difference in the tax revenues that go into the community. And
wow.
So that it can be huge. In fact, for DC Blox to come in and do this project, it will, once we're up and running, phase 1, phase 2, we will probably be one of the largest tax revenue contributors in the entire county. It's that significant.
So when you say tax revenue contributor, what does that look like? Break it down to me for the common folk. So what does that look like if you say, okay, $32 million tax revenue, and that goes in, and how does that help the community?
Well, there are a few components. You'll hear about a TIF, which I don't want to spend too much time on, but if anybody wants to reach out, I can pull in some people who can really talk about this. Sure. And this is in a TIF district. It primarily is going to benefit some of the parks around Irvington. And that is basically a carve out that and that money will go to specific projects to stay very local to where the development is happening. There's also an inclusivity payment, which is, I think we're talking about 10% of the abated money has to go back into the immediate community. And that can be for, projects that are important to the residents right around there. In addition to the TIF, in addition to the inclusivity payments, DC Blox is in conversation with some leaders about making other contributions that are more near term for community benefits. And so we hope to be able to announce some of that in the next week. And that'll be significant. You don't have to wait for the construction to be finished for the taxes to start coming in. That'll be money that goes to work immediately at the outset of the project. But as far as and if you want, you can talk to city councilors and try to get an understanding of where the budget situation is for Indianapolis in general. But some tax revenue contributions like this can really be a game changer, because it goes to health and hospital, public transportation, police, fire, sanitation, the libraries, as well as the consolidated city and Marion County. So I think when people think about data centers, a lot of times they think about what are the issues that they're concerned about, be it water, utility rates, noise, et cetera. But the balance to all of this is, can this be done responsibly? And what does this mean when you get down to real dollars that can make positive impacts to the roads we drive on, to the police that are in our community, and so forth?
Okay. So we call this the lightning round. Real quick, I know you got some stuff you got to do. 1 minute, real quick, 1 minute answers, and we'll get you out of here. All right. So,
all right.
Is this project good for Indianapolis?
I think this is good for Indianapolis. I think it's good at this brownfield site that's in an industrial park. And I think DC Blox will do a great job responsibly building it.
Will taxpayers subsidize this project?
Taxpayers will not subsidize this project. The tax revenues that this project will generate will benefit taxpayers.
Okay. Has DC Blox made any mistakes in this process?
Great question. One of the things that DC Blox does that's different than most is we don't have any non-disclosure agreements. We don't have any NDAs. And we really try to jump out early and talk to people and tell them what's going on. And, some of the by us getting out early, like we showed up at a Warren Township meeting before we had even filed notices, and people were upset that we had not talked about it earlier. And so it's kind of like, well, we thought we were early. I'll tell you, one of the mistakes we made is with that phase 2. You're asking about like the generators.
Sure.
Like we estimated early on because we didn't really know. And then we came back, and because we asked our engineering team, we said, well, what's the maximum we could ever put on there? Because we don't want to bait and switch. Like let's show the maximum, and we could always be less, right? And so the number of generators changed, and people were like, what's going on with that? Because it made us look bad, like we didn't have our numbers together.
Sure.
So I think we could have done better with that.
Okay, thank you for that. Is community opposition stronger than you expected?
Yes. This is a relatively new thing for us. This anti-data center stuff that's on social media has really exploded. And in the last, I would say 6 to 9 months. And this is our very first market that we've gone into where we've seen it like that. So, what we're trying to do is just like what we're doing here today. It's like, we got to show up. I've had a lot of coffees. I've had a lot of sit downs for 30 minutes to an hour, just trying to answer some questions and tell them what we're about, because we're new to the community. That trust has got to be earned. And the only way we know how to do that is to make the investment by showing up and talking to people and not hiding behind NDAs. And we believe that we can earn that trust over time.
Is there anything residents should be worried about?
I think that that's a great question. So what should they be worried about?
Sure.
I think what I would say to residents is, please stay engaged with us. Okay. There are some people who will never be happy with a data center. It's like they're ideologically opposed to the idea. They just don't like data centers no matter what. And there are others who are more pragmatic, who understand that, hey, this is an industrial I3 brownfield site. It's going to be redeveloped. And this is actually a less polluting, less offensive option than what could go here otherwise. Okay. And so they've provided inputs. We've had some really thoughtful people who have given us feedback. And we have, over the last few months, been updating our commitments to incorporate a lot of that feedback. Like one of the ones that came up recently was, we want a way to stay engaged with you during operations, and we want visibility into your environmental reports. And that's where we said, oh, you know what, we can keep our website live, and that's where we'll provide that information.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So it's my final question. 5 years from now, if this project is approved and built, what do you hope the people opposing it today will say about DC Blox?
Wow, I think we've done this before, where people opposed us, and when we were able to deliver our project in a responsible way that continued community engagement, and we continued to make investments into those communities and continue with that engagement 5 years, 8 years in, those people see that, that DC Blox had the opportunity to earn their trust, and that they're being a good partner in the community. And that's what we want to do everywhere we go.
Okay. David, I appreciate you coming on, man. And we're going to keep these, hopefully we can keep this line of communication open. Things get rolling as things change or whatever. I'd love to have you back so we can talk more about it as things emerge. People may have some questions. This time I really want to get the audience, bring on some questions that they put in my chat. And then we can answer some of them at another time. If you're open to that, I look forward to having you back. But man, yeah. thank you for coming on, man. And we'll definitely be in touch. Enjoy your time here. I'm sure you're off to a meeting where you probably get screamed at, but hang in there. And you're always welcome to share here at the Unmitigated Truth. I thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, David. You have a great one. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All righty. So, man, you know, that was David Armistead. I'm thankful he came by. These are not the easiest interviews because there's so much we don't know. There's so much we hear. And I'm like this, whether you support this project or oppose it, one thing is certain: Indianapolis deserves transparency. Billions of dollars are at stake. Neighborhoods are at stake. The future of the city is at stake. And our job is to ask questions. Your job, my job, our job is to merely decide. And so, hey, man, you know, it's not always what we want to hear, but at the you know, we're going to ask the questions, and I'm you know, I'll say this: everybody's not able to get these people on, and I'll also say this: we can have civil conversations and agree to disagree. I think that, yeah, we could be rah, but at the end of the day, it's like, let me hear you and let you hear me, and we'll figure it out where we land. So y'all have a great one. Share the video, go to the YouTube page, subscribe, please subscribe to the YouTube page. We are trying to get to 10,000 followers on my personal Facebook page, get us up to 10,000 followers. So share it. And we definitely appreciate it. Have a great evening. This has been the Unmitigated Truth. Have a great one, y'all. Peace.